Hey, good day, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Pirkei Avot, the Ethics of the Fathers, live from Israel with Rabbi Chaim Coffman, who has been going in depth of late, and we're still continuing in chapter 2, Mishna 9, and today is part 2 of that. So exciting. So let's just jump right in and see how the rabbi's doing today. Shalom, Rabbi Kaufman. Always good to be with you. And I really enjoyed last week's message. Thank you so much. And I'm sure you've got some great stuff for us today.
Well, we're going to hit part 2. I don't know. We got part 3. We're going to see. Where it goes. But it's always a pleasure to be here. So what the Mishna say? Remember, the Mishna said the name of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, who received the tradition from Hillel and Shammai. Remember, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, youngest, I think, of the students of Hillel and Shammai. Imagine, you can only imagine who the other students were. And he says that if you study much Torah, don't take credit for yourself, because that's what you're created to do, right? So he spoke, quite a bit about, that idea, and about Gaivan, about someone who's conceited in this, cream puff generation, saying, look, I've learned so much Torah. And because I've learned so much Torah, everyone should be like, look at my bootstraps. The problem is, what's the obvious problem? Is what you're created to do. If that's what you're created to do, then why are you gonna be Gaivan? Why are you gonna, be conceited? Think you're God's gift to the world. So comes on Rabbi Yonah. I think we sort of ended, with this. We spoke about it a little bit, but we're going to repeat it anyway. Rabbi Yonah, his commentary in Pirkei Avot says that the Torah is as long as the earth, as wide as the sea. A person cannot fathom its true depth. Now, before we go any further with this, the Chos of Avot, duties of the heart. So the Chos of Avot says that when a person learns, whatever we do is only a drop in the bucket.
Drop in the bucket.
Compared to what we're obligated to do. Now, if that's the case, on one hand, someone's going to say, why bother learning at all? What's the purpose? I'm not going to accomplish that much. No matter how much I delve into it. We said before, Torah is as long as the earth and as wide as the sea. So one side will say, if that's true, and we don't live up to what we're supposed to do anyway, why bother? Seemingly, it's a waste of time. You're only scratching the surface. On the other hand, if we have an opportunity to learn at whatever level, then we have to put our best in the Torah. That's what we have to do. And, if we do understand, or however much we understand, doesn't really matter. We have to put in the effort. We're in this world of Mesil Zasharim. As he says in Path of the Just, we're here to toil. We're here to work hard. We're here to struggle. So, we're very far from understanding what the Torah says. Now, that's kind of self-defeating, if you think about it, right? Because if it's as wide as the earth, as long as the earth and wide as the sea, so learning, what are we going to get from it here? Maybe we'll understand at one level. Maybe certain things we won't understand. Maybe we won't understand at any level. Right? The red heifer, for example. One of the things King Solomon said he had difficulty understanding. And he's the wisest of all men. So when you look at the red heifer, took a cow, totally red, never worked. No other hairs on it. And someone was impure. You killed the animal, you burned it, you took the ashes, and you spread it. Kohen would spread it on the person who was impure. That would make him pure. The Kohen would make him pure. That doesn't make sense. Logically, it doesn't make sense. How can you make someone pure and impure at the same time? Now, that doesn't mean we have to try and understand it and what it means. I would say, 80%, let's say 80% of the Torah in general doesn't make sense according to our understanding. right? Doesn't make sense. But we have to try and make sense out of it.
Sure.
We have to try and learn it
Digest
to the
it.
best of our ability.
Sure.
But how much are we really going to accomplish? Whatever God gives us. Whatever that heavenly help is that we're able to understand at whatever level.
Right.
Now, there are things people can understand at a much higher level. There are things people understand at a much lower level. Doesn't matter. I have an obligation. Jews and non-Jews have an obligation to learn it, to understand it to the best of our ability. Now, again, what can I say? I'm going to keep coming back to this point, right? We're gonna keep coming back to this point, and that is, if I don't really fully understand it, or I'm not going to get to a certain level of knowledge, and I'm not going to accomplish what I need to accomplish, because I'm only learning, let's say, maximizing 5%, 10% of what I could do, no matter how much effort I put in, then we could say the $1.5 million question is, why bother? No one can really understand everything, right? Someone walks in my house, they see 2,000 books. And they say, wow, no one can really understand that, right? You can't know everything. So what's the point of investing in books? Now, that same person would never have the gall, would never have the chutzpah to walk in to a lawyer's office or a doctor's office, and they see bookshelves of books, and, hey, you can't know this. No one's going to have the chutzpah to say that. They're going to say, I need to be treated. I need to be helped over here. But what's the difference? What's the main difference? Main difference is they respect these other professions. Torah, they don't respect. So what they're saying, though, what they're saying is, a person, how can they really ever understand Torah? Now, that's legitimate. That's a legitimate claim. It's coming from the wrong place, but it's a legitimate claim. Because the reality is, someone will say, grew up in Israel, and say, I learned Tanakh already. I learned it when I was much younger. What do I need to learn more? I already know it. I know the story. But you don't know what's behind the story. You don't know the depth. A person reads, give an example. A few weeks ago, we read the book of Esther. You read the book of Esther, seemingly an unbelievable story. How the Jews are saved. Interesting enough, God's name not mentioned once. Not mentioned once. Not only that, but you see there are seemingly random events. But each event is significant in the whole story. Tremendously significant. Now, when you look at each random event, you'll say, okay, very interesting. Part of the story, you move on. But I need each event. But you need to know what's going on behind the scenes. And if you don't know what's going on behind the scenes, you miss a lot.
Yeah.
You miss a tremendous amount.
Sure.
And I don't care who it is. I had somebody once, when I started my class in the beginning of the book of Genesis, right, about 9 years ago, and I'm holding by Leviticus chapter 16. So you see, I haven't got that far. Giving a class, every week for 2 hours. So a person says, what do I need these classes for? I know the Bible from cover to cover. I said, okay, you mind if I ask you a couple questions? They said, sure. I said, well, you know that story with Lot and his daughter, and they think that there's no other man, so they get the father drunk, they get pregnant, and one of them has, both of them have children. One of them has the children they call Moab, right? Moab, Me'av, from my father, right? Let's say not so, she wasn't so modest, let's say. Who comes out of Moab? Ruth, right? Question, daughter, granddaughter, whatever the lineage is, she comes out, everyone agrees she came out of Moab. Who comes out of Ruth? 4 or 5 generations later, King David, right? So Ruth obviously has to be Jewish for the Jews and non-Jews, right? Even for The Christians, they have a Davidic line, even though Gospels have different people in that Davidic line, which makes it kind of hard to explain. But they also have to go back to King David. They also have to go back to King David. It's a little bit strange. King David comes from an incestuous relationship. Very strange. So I said, what about the story of Tamar and Yehuda, right? Tamar as a husband, Yehuda's son, he dies. Takes second son, he dies. Third son, he puts away and says, okay, when he grows up, I'll give him to you. She sees he's not giving him to her. So what happens? She dresses up as a prostitute, and they get together, and she has 2 children. Through these 2 children come kingship. Right? The Torah says clear, kingship never leads from the tribe of Yehuda. So I said, I bet you never thought kingship would come from such a relationship. The person comes back and says, okay, Rabbi, what's your point? I said, my point is, I don't think you know the Bible as well as you think. You may know the story. You may be able to repeat what it says from cover to cover. Okay? You may be able to do that. So what? Even if a person can do it, so you're just a parrot. Am I going to take anything a parrot says seriously? No. Because you don't know the depth. Tremendous depth. So when a person goes behind the scenes and they understand at a deeper level what's going on, in the Torah itself, in the prophets, in the writings, so to speak. So you go through, you dig deeper. What do you find? You find that you're uncovering layer after layer. Does that mean you uncover the final layer? No. Plenty what to uncover. Right? So Rabbi Yonah says, if the Torah is as long as the earth and as wide as the sea, we can't fathom its depth. The reality is, we still got to dig. We still have to understand about how much of a real understanding we really have. You're going to say, come on. We just came out of Shabbos here in Israel. You're going to say, well, you don't know what you're doing? Nobody knows what they're doing? Nobody understands anything? No. Plenty what we do understand. Plenty what we know according to Jewish law. There might be some doubts about this, doubts about that, but it doesn't matter. Right? We have precedent. We know what to do. So the reality is we have to try and understand to the best of our ability. But we have to realize also, it is not like mathematics. And it's not like history. It's not like anything else. Because once you master a craft, right? We'll throw this out there, no reference to anyone I may or may not know. You think someone's a used car salesman. There are tricks to the trade. Every place, everything, whatever it is, whatever person makes a living for, the information that they're going to use to make this living is limited. You could tell me, every year, maybe, someone who's a tax preparer, maybe there are new laws here and there, that come up every year. So they have to tell their clients and whatever. Fine. But it doesn't, 99% of it doesn't change. It doesn't change. Medicine in general.
People live by rote.
Exactly. But these things don't necessarily change. Medicine, you can tell me, there are new advances, new this. Okay, but the vast majority of standard medicine, and even if people use alternative medicine, it doesn't change all that much. The knowledge is going to be the same. I can't imagine people going to medical school today are not learning the same things they learned 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Technology is different. I'm not saying there's not more knowledge out there each year. But the majority of knowledge, how the body works in different things, that stays the same. That doesn't change. Right? So, all these other things that a person's going to learn, is finite. finite in the sense where knowledge is not going to, or information is not going to come at such a level. You're going to say, oh, got to learn it all over again. Got to start from scratch. I don't know any field that's like that unless there's such a turnover. Unless there's such a turnover and something major happens, that's going to turn over the whole field. There's really nothing like that.
Yeah.
And if there is, it's an exception. It's an exception to the rule.
Right.
Torah itself is not finite. The more we delve in, the more knowledge we have, the more we see we don't know. The more we see the depth, as great as it is. Nonetheless, a person can say, I understand. It's not finite. I understand it's very deep. But we're a cream puff generation. If we're a cream puff generation, how much can I understand? How much is it possible to understand? And what's the answer? We have to put in effort. We have to work hard. So even if God gives us heavenly help, and actually we do understand at whatever level, the reality is, the person's going to say, wow, look what I learned over here. Look how much I learned over there. Look what I've done. But then why? First of all,
goes right to their heading.
Yeah, if the Torah is as wide as the sea, so you're always scratching the surface. And even if you scratched a lot of surfaces and you learned a tremendous amount of Torah, what's Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai saying? He's saying, what difference does it make? What difference does it make over here? The amount you learn, that's what you're created to do. If that's what you're created to do, then where's the ego coming? Now, mentioned this story before. Had an 18, 19-year-old tell me, Rabbi, come on. Cut me some slack. I don't need to hear Musar. I'm holding better 95% world Jewry. Now, let's say that's true. 95% of world Jewry can't even read Hebrew. They don't know how to say the Shema. They may not know who Moshe Rabbeinu is. So now, what are you putting yourself on a pedestal? You know more than someone who I would say in Judaism is mentally challenged. What kind of pedestal is that? Right? Even if I would agree, which I don't, but what if God thinks you're on a higher level? That's a whole different ballgame. What are we spoken about? I don't want to digress here. So here, person's learning, and they could have learned a lot, tremendous amounts. But the reality is, how can we think we're so great? We're only accomplishing very little, as the Chovos Levavot said, of how much we learn. Doesn't mean I don't have to put my best foot forward. Doesn't mean I don't have to work hard. But why in the world am I going to think I'm so great? Because that's what I'm created to do. Now, just as a side point, secular Jews may think, oh, you have a chip on your shoulder. You think you're better than us. It's the spark of the Jew. Now, because I'm also Jewish. There's a concept I know most people heard of. It's called bageling. What does bageling mean? It means, let's say you're in an airport, right? You're in an airport and a person, let's say myself, see me in an airport, black hat, suit, sits, whatever, and a person comes up to you, maybe they look Jewish or not, and they say something showing their Jewishness. In other words, they want to have a connection to you. So there's a concept, I don't know who labeled it, but there's a concept called bageling. So bageling means that you take someone, let's say a secular Jew, right, a non-religious Jew, and they want to start up a conversation because obviously you look very Jewish, right? So they're going to either say something or, say, look, I have chocolate macaroons for Passover, right? So they say, very nice, chocolate macaroons, whatever, or they'll show you their hide that they wear as a necklace or a Star of David. That's pagan, right? What are they doing? They want to show, see, I'm also Jewish. I also have that connection. But there are other people who will think and disparage Orthodox Jews, say, you're looking down upon me. They're not looking down on anyone, right? Oh, you think I'm wrong, and I think it has nothing to do with what I think or what I don't think. God's the ultimate judge. The Torah says you have to keep Shabbos. You don't keep Shabbos, there are repercussions. Torah says you can't eat pig, can't eat things that aren't kosher. There are repercussions, and nothing to do with me. You want me to tell you what the Torah says? If I know, I'll tell you. But what do they say? Oh, yeah, you think Father says I'm not Jewish. Well, if you don't do anything to lose that Jewishness, fine. If you don't cut yourself off. If you cut yourself off, a different issue. But a person will say, well, a Jew's a Jew. At least till they intermarry. Once they intermarry, they lose their status of being Jewish. Tshuva, repentance, is not going to help. Such a thing. Why not? Unless the other person converts, then how are you going to repent over here? Or the person gets divorced. So certain things, the person can lose their status of being a Jew. Shabbos, for instance. Person desecrates Shabbos in public. They have the status of a non-Jew. You can't answer amen to their blessings. You cannot count them as part of a minyan, part of 10 men. There are other things. They lose their status over here. Now, that doesn't mean they can't repent. They can certainly repent. But this is not, as some people look at it, this is not a judgment issue. Right? It's not a judgment issue. It's not, I think I'm so much better. We have to remember, Torah doesn't care what I think. Torah doesn't care what anybody thinks. What the Torah cares about is the fact that God spoke to Moshe, Moshe passed it down to us. Right? That's the most important thing. So, yeah, the Torah says this is forbidden. A person can say, well, I don't care what the Torah says. Fine. A person can say that. But you cannot judge a person, namely an Orthodox Jew, and say, you're looking down upon us. Right, as a secular Jew. You're looking down on us. And nothing to do with looking down on anyone. And if anybody does, and they have a chip on their shoulder, that's wrong. 100% according to the Torah, that's wrong. Person has to realize, as we said many times, there are repercussions. There are repercussions for what you do. There's a right way to do things. There's a wrong way to do things. You want to do the right thing? It's one thing. You want to do the wrong thing? It's your choice. But don't come to me and say, oh, you think this and you think that. Why do I think that? You're right, I do think that. Why? Why do I think it? Very simple. I think it because that's what the Torah says. That's what the rabbis tell me. That's what the commentaries say. Then someone can say, who said I have to listen to the rabbis? Who said, I don't believe it. Okay? You don't believe it. What does that have to do with anything? It has nothing to do with anything. Whether you believe or don't believe. We over here believe.
Mm-hmm.
We believe there are repercussions. There are absolute repercussions. We for sure believe that. We believe there's a right and a wrong. Now, you want to tell me there's no right and wrong? You want to explain to me why you think what you're doing is okay? You want to justify what you do? It's a different issue. So, it's not we're looking down on anybody. There's a reality. The reality is, as we've said many times, either God spoke to Moshe on Mount Sinai, passed it down, or he didn't. If he didn't, none of us would be here today. We wouldn't be wasting our time. They say, no, it's a nice thing. we're going to have all these nice customs. We're going to eat all this crunchy matzah, in 35 seconds and whistle Dixie, drink 4 cups. So why would I do that? Why would I clean my house, which I haven't started to do yet? Why would I clean my house like a crazy person, for the next 2 weeks if it didn't really happen? Orthodox rabbi getting paid probably more than $1 million a year. I gotta upgrade my pay scale over here. And he comes out 15, 20 years ago saying on the 7th night of Passover, gets up on the pulpit and says, the exodus from Egypt didn't happen. Right now, if I would have been sitting there, I would have said, Rabbi, that's so interesting. So why do we eat matzah? Why would I have 4 cups of wine? Or grape juice? Why would I even symbolically clean my house of any leaven product? Why would I bother doing this? Say, it's a myth. You just said it didn't happen. Rip up most of the book of Exodus. A lot of myths that have to do with coming out of Egypt. We're not going to do them. We're not going to say it. Why? Never happened. I don't know. Maybe everything that happened in Egypt happened because there's such a theory. Saturn was out of orbit. Maybe. I got a bridge in British Columbia to sell you cheap. A big one. Come on. He gets up and he says such a stupid thing. Such a ludicrous thing. It never happened. Right? If it never happens, first of all, how can you call yourself a rabbi? Believe in God? Well, that's besides the point. If you don't believe it happened, why would we do anything? Why would we do anything? So, most people, most secular Jews, make a Passover Seder. They light Hanukkah candles, make a Passover Seder, maybe go to synagogue, Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, and that's about it. Now, what does it mean to make a Passover Seder? So, they'll have some matzah there, bit of herbs. Are they going to clean like we would? No. Are they going to do what they should do like we do? No. It's all symbolic. It's all now. There are modern day Haggadahs, probably comparing what we went through with other nations and who knows what. So, degrading to a certain extent what really happened. But, okay, we're not even going to go there. So, if that's true, why bother? That's not going to lead someone to want to look into Judaism. If it, the funny thing is, I'm just going to throw this out there. I'm on this. Funny thing is, it's not really funny, but the Torah says that the Passover Seder, Passover has to start at night. Why does that have to start at night? When was the Paschal offering eaten? At night. It was eaten at night. Now, we changed the clocks. Everyone, right, North America, and Israel changed the clocks. So, everything right now is an hour later. So now, a couple weeks, we'll just use Israel as an example, right? When's sundown going to be in a couple weeks? I don't know, 7:15, maybe 7:20, etc. So that's when sundown is. But I can only eat the Paschal offering after sundown, when it's nighttime. When's it nighttime? When you see 3 visible stars.
3 stars, yes.
Yeah, when is 3 stars? Usually about 30 minutes, 35 minutes after sundown. Right, about 20 minutes. Maybe.
I hear it's 20 in Israel, and it's relative to the how close
You're
you
right,
are to
but
the
the
equator.
festival starts a little bit later than that.
Yeah.
Only because you want to add on to the holiness from the profane to the holiness, right? So you add on, like, let's say another 10 minutes. But let's say you're right. Let's say it's 20 minutes, right? So now that means I cannot start the Seder. Forget the evening service. Let's say you don't say the evening service. When's the earliest time I can start the Seder? 20 minutes after sundown. 20 minutes after sundown is what time? It's about 7:40. Okay, now, the table has to be set. You have to have your pillows. You have to, whatever. Everything has to be ready. Now, let's say you don't end up starting till 8 o'clock. If you're lucky. 10 past 8, quarter past 8, you start the Seder. Let's say. Now, that's kind of late for a lot of people. So what will people do? What people will do is I'm not going to start at 7:20. I'm going to start at 5:30. I'm going to start at 6. Now I'm talking about Israel. In the States, it's later. There are places sundown is much later. Right? I remember
Up to the Arctic, it never sets.
I saw on Friday. So when is candle lighting? Let's say New Jersey was 7:03. Right? That means sundown is about 7:20. 7:21. So in a couple of weeks, that'll be like 7:30, 7:40. And then you pray the evening service. You won't get home till at least 8:15. But what does someone say? I'm not going to inconvenience myself. Got to get home at 8:30. I'll be starving.
Cut corners, eh?
You got not only cut corners. I'm going to start early. We're going to start early. Now, what happens if you start early? Let's say you decide you're going to start 5:30. Now, let's say you live in New Jersey. Sundown is 7:40. You're starting at 5:30. Are you going to tell over a lot of stuff at the Seder? Probably not. You're going to run through it. Within 2 hours, you're going to be totally done. Now, what happens? The last piece of matzah that you eat is the matzah, the Paschal offering. Paschal offering has to be eaten at night. It should really be eaten before halachic midnight without going into all that. Usually about 12:30, 1:45, let's say at night. Or whatever, in the morning. Whatever it is. But this person's going to be done before sundown. You hear the problem? The problem is you drank 4 cups of wine, even if you did it, and you drank enough wine, and you ate matzah, which probably didn't eat enough. But let's say you ate enough matzah, you ate it on the wrong day. It's not the right day. Because you didn't do it at night. When do the holidays start in Judaism? At night. Not during the day, at night. So you did it the wrong night. So then you say, okay, fine. You didn't do it right. Comes along the second night outside of Israel. In Israel, we only do it one night. The first night of the holiday, we only do it one night. Let's say the second night outside of Israel. What do? Same thing. You start at 5:30. You finish before 8 o'clock. All the matzah eaten. All the wine drank. Not at night. It's Passover now. Right? But it's got to be done at night, not during the day. Usually, the whole question, if the whole night passed and you didn't do it, you have until sunup. But if sunup goes by, you blew it. So here, you blew it. The person's going to get upstairs after 120 years. And God's going to say, you didn't even keep Passover right. They're like, what do you mean? I made a Seder every year. God says you're supposed to do it at night. You didn't do it at night. You finished by 7:15. It wasn't even sundown. You ate the matzah, drank the wine. So, person's going to say, well, don't I get credit for it? You're going to get any credit? You didn't do what it says. You didn't listen to what the rabbis tell you. Oh, but it's the thought that counts. Here's what the thought is. What's the point? What's the obvious point? The obvious point is, if you're going to do it right. If you're not going to do it, don't bother. And there are people who say, I want my kids to see a Passover Seder. But what are they seeing? You give the Passover Seder lip service. You run through the Haggadah. A lot of depth to the Haggadah. You can spend all night, weeks learning the Haggadah. There's a lot there. But obviously you have to cover ground. You have to eat at a certain time. Right? You have to eat the matzah at a certain time. The afikomen, the last piece of matzah at a certain time. But there's a lot there. But if you run it, you don't give it any meaning at all, what's going to stick with the kid? The nice memory. Maybe they do have a good memory of Passover. Maybe they also want to have a Passover Seder for their kids. But the reality is that even if they want a Passover Seder, let's say they make a Passover Seder, isn't it going to be more watered down than even what their parents gave? Because that's what we call Yeridas Hadoros. Yeridas Hadoros means the generations further generations to get further away from Mount Sinai, we get weaker spiritually. So what's going to happen? It's going to get even more watered down. Till they eat only a crumb of matzah. They drink 1 cup of whatever. It's going to get watered down. Something like that cannot be passed down. It doesn't work. We know, it mentions many times it doesn't work. So we have to realize, if you're going to do it, Coffman's law is do it right. Don't make it a travesty of a mockery of Hashem. Because if you really don't believe it, and you don't believe in it in general, then why bother? You're not doing any justice over here. You're not pleasing God. Where's the self-sacrifice? Where's the Mesiris Nefesh, as we call it? What are people doing? Exactly what they want to do. Right now, this year it's a little bit easier, and worse in some ways, because when does Passover come out? On the weekend? Right, so even a person stayed up late the night before, then to worry about work. Most people, hopefully, not working on Saturday. Right, hopefully. On the other hand, it's worse because then people will desecrate more on Shabbos, to get places and whatever. So it's sort of a catch-22. But some people will say, well, it's very important. It's very important they see what this is. But if they see something that's false, they may not keep it like you. But if they don't keep it like me, then it's false. And if it's false, what's it going to do? What is it going to do for the sake of their soul? It's not going to do anything. Not going to do anything. I used to think many years ago exactly this. That they're going to go to the Passover Seder, not worth anything. On the other hand, maybe I mellowed a little bit over the years, and maybe that's better than nothing. Because if it's better than nothing, maybe at least they'll do something later. Maybe they'll get that spark later. But the reality is the person has to look for it. The person has to want it. If they go through this Passover Seder, it doesn't really mean much. They ain't coming back to it. And there are many, many people, tens of thousands, millions, unaffiliated. Unaffiliated means they don't go to synagogue at all. They don't keep anything. The ones who are affiliated keep a little bit more. Okay? Still bad. Nothing's going to come out of it. In general. So, my underlying thinking is like I thought many years ago. If you were not brought up with anything, you don't have biases against it. There are many people who grew up, went to Hebrew school, and hated it. So they have nothing to do with Judaism. There are some that are, cardiac Jews. A Jew in their heart, they're much more traditional in certain ways. Why? Could be they're much older, so they have that tradition from their parents, or whatever. And some of them, it was instilled in them by their parents. I know people who are very, very Jewish, but they keep very little. So they have it somewhere. It's pretty miraculous. Pretty miraculous. But, they have it somewhere. Most people don't have it. They don't want it. They're not interested in it. Right? So if that's the case, it will die. 100% it will die. So we who believe we are the real deal, Jews and non-Jews, right, who believe we're doing the right thing, we don't have a chip on our shoulder. We should be crying every single day what's going on with the Jewish people. That's what we should be doing. Every day should be like Tisha B'Av. Should be like the 9th of Av. When you sit on the floor, and we read these penitential prayers all about the destruction of the temple. Jewish people have been destroyed spiritually over the last, millennium. And now the last 100, 150 years, been wiped out spiritually. Forget physically another issue. So with all that, the only people going to keep what they need to keep, are the ones that are learning. The ones that keep it the way it should. So that has nothing to do, with a chip on our shoulder. Or someone will say, oh, you think you know better. I do know better. I've been studying this for 30 years. I should know better. We always say, no one's going to argue in general with a PhD. Pilot higher and deeper and Papa has dough. Right? No one's going to argue with a PhD. No one's going to say, I read an article on Wikipedia, I'm going to knock off Stephen Hawking. That's it, I know more physics. Come on. Never going to happen. Oh, but you spent your so many years, day in and day out, learning these ancient texts and all that. They don't respect it. So if they don't respect it, they're going to think, what? I know more than you? No, they're going to make fun of it. They're going to degrade you, all kinds of things. So it has nothing to do with a chip on our shoulder. If it's the right way to do things, it's the right way to do things. If it's the wrong way to do things, then we have an obligation to say it's wrong. That's not a chip on our shoulder. That we're calling a spade a spade. That we're saying God gave the Torah to Moshe. Moshe passed it down. You're not arguing that. You're not giving evidence against it. So it's not a chip over here. Not a chip on our shoulder. It's what we believe in. It's what we have passion for. That's a whole different thing. You don't want to believe, that's your choice. But don't think there aren't repercussions. Oh, I don't believe that. Oh, great. Let's have a discussion. No. I'm not going to have this discussion. Okay? Right? In other words, you cannot argue. They're not even going to argue with you. They're just going to say, I'm going to do what I do. I don't care what you say. I don't care what proof you bring. That's not really being so open-minded. Right? So, on the other hand, they have a chip on their shoulder. Why did I bring up bageling before? Because people say, I'm also Jewish. You're not the only one who's got a monopoly on Judaism. I also feel Jewish. Great. But you're not saying anything otherwise. We're not coming out and saying you're not Jewish. I mean, obviously, if you went to marry other things, the problem, there are repercussions. Right? No, I don't believe in that. Okay? So, a lot of these times, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time to have these discussions. In general. You're arguing apples and oranges. But it had nothing to do with we have a chip on our shoulder. And we think we're better. We have a belief. God gave the Torah. He passed it to Moses. Moses passed it down to us. There's an oral law. There's right and wrong. And if you do the wrong thing, you just pray at the evening service, second paragraph of the Shema. You do the right thing, God's going to send rain, food, all these great things. Do the wrong things, payback. Everyone at their level, whatever it is. Payback. Oh, I don't believe that. Okay? That doesn't mean it's not true. It's because you don't believe it. So, this has nothing to do with we think we're better or not. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the fact, is the Torah true or not? Did God speak to Moshe or not? So now, even with everything we said up until now, the Torah is as long as the earth. Right? It's as wide as the sea. How much am I really putting into the Torah? How much effort I put in? But the reality is I'm accomplishing very little compared to what I should know, compared to what I should be doing. Because when a person goes to sleep, right? A Jew goes to sleep, and they're going to say the Shema before they go to sleep. They should think, what did I do during the day? What did I accomplish? What didn't I accomplish? What should I accomplish? Pretty depressing if you think about it. Each day is a new day. We want to try and accomplish a lot. We want to try and reach potential. This is what we want to do. Right? In other words, what's the bottom line going to be? I got to put in the effort. I absolutely have to put in the effort. Even at whatever we do, even if it's 10% of what I should do, or 5% of what I really should be doing, I still have to do it. I have to put my best foot forward. And we have to realize there are multiple layers. Just because I learned it yesterday, who says I see it the same way? I read something my Rabbi put out, and he said when a person gets asked the question, don't answer straight away. Why not? Think. Take this thing apart, look at it in 40 different angles, and then make a decision. You can't just answer straight off, unless you really know, straight away. But you got to think. Life is not going to, you mentioned before, and I spoke about this last week, my class on Book of Leviticus, chapter 16, which we're going to do tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern time, 4 o'clock Israel time. I spoke about doing things by rote. Why that's akin to spiritual death. Learned it yesterday. Did it the day before. Keep doing it. But you're missing something. You're missing what we call panemius. The inner workings over here. The deeper aspects. You're just doing it because, maybe it's the lowest level of fear of heaven. And that is, I'm going to keep these things and do whatever I have to do because I'm afraid I'm going to fry in hell forever. That is not going to lead to love of God. Because someone asked me about this, last week, or a few weeks ago. I brought up last week in one of my Q&As about love of God. Can a person have love of God and at the same time only keep the Torah because God said so? Now, love of God will lead to fear of God. Right? Because if God's on, what level fear of God? Fact that God runs the world. God's in charge. How the human body works. All these great miracles. That's a higher level fear of God than just saying I'm going to keep Torah mitzvahs because I'm afraid I'm going to fry in hell forever. It's a much higher level. Love of God will lead to that. Fear of God, and a person's only going to keep Torah mitzvahs because they're afraid they're going to fry in hell forever, will not lead to love of God. Why? You're too caught up in just keeping the mitzvahs because you don't want to get in trouble. And most people are not going to want to keep Torah mitzvahs for that reason. They're going to say, I'm going to fry in hell forever. Fine. I know I'm going to fry in hell forever. I'm going to enjoy life. Right? Like the prophet says, eat, drink, and be merry lest tomorrow I die. That's going to be the mantra. So, why would a person bother keeping Torah mitzvahs if they know they're going to pay the price anyway later? Some people will, but it's not going to last. It's not going to last. So it doesn't matter how much we learn, how little we really do in the bigger scheme of things. We still have to do it. A person can feel really small, and a person can say, what I'm really doing, is not what I'm supposed to be. I really should be living at a higher level. I should be doing a lot more. I feel very insignificant. We go up and down all the time, in spiritual terms. I can always accomplish more.
That's right. Don't sit still.
Someone's going to look at the other side and say, what do you mean accomplish more? You learned it, you did it, that's enough. But again, if I say I'm happy being mediocre and I'm not interested in growing, that's also akin to spiritual death. I know somebody like that. Their kids turned out to be a disaster. Most religious family I knew growing up. One, had a bunch of kids with a non-Jew. One's married to a non-Jew, and the third one's not married. Not married. Closest one to Judaism, but not married. Now you think about it, Torah's not an inheritance. But the difference is, if they have a proper education and they drop out, okay, that's their choice. There is a dropout level, to a certain degree. But at the same time, you give them a fair chance. If you give them a half-baked education, they'll come out half-baked. If you don't give them the real thing, they won't come out the way they should. Now, is that a guarantee they'll come out the way they should anyway? No. It's not a guarantee, but you know what? That's the only thing we have. You have an obligation, absolutely, to give your kids a proper Jewish education. Right? For a Jew. If you don't give them a proper Jewish education, they come out cracked, your fault. Totally your fault. You're going to say, come on. They have free will. After a certain age. Right? After a certain age, they're liable for themselves. You're right. But if you gave him a crummy base, you're going to pay the price. You're going to pay the price. So I told this family, I told the parents, get yourself out of Dodge. You got to move to a Jewish community. And they had, they hard, they this and that, and that's what happened. Now again, I'm not a prophet over here, but it's very easy to see. You take them, you give them a half-baked thing, they're going to come out half-baked. That's what happened. They know a little bit more than a lot of people. Very good. So if you know a little bit more than people who don't know anything, how are you going to put yourself on such a high pedestal? Right? We're the epitome. People look up to us. Yeah, look what happened. Look what happened. Disaster. And a person who says, I'm happy where I am, run. You don't have anything to do with such a person. They're not growing spiritually. They're not interested in growing spiritually. And they can say, well, I did the best I could. Now, what's the problem with that? Problem with that is after 120 years, they could use that as an excuse. God knows if you did or not. And you may just throw out there, look, I did what I could. God says you didn't listen. If you would have done this, this is what the end result would have been. Now imagine this person, God shows the second movie. First movie is everything you did. Every last thought. Right? When you thought it was safe to read National Geographic in the bathroom. Every last thought. And then you see the second movie, what your potential was. Now imagine, just thinking out loud here, imagine if the parents would have listened to what I said when I was becoming religious. And God says, okay, if you would have listened to Coffman over here, here's what would have happened if you would have moved to a Jewish community, a proper Jewish community. Send your kids to a proper school. However it would have worked out. This is what would have happened. What could I say probably would have happened? And that is, they would have at least married Jews. This person would have Jewish grandkids. They may look at them as technically, according to you, they're not Jewish. Yeah, they're not Jewish because the mother's not Jewish. But this is all I have. It's a tragic situation. Because, of course, what does the parent want? Grandkids. In the secular world, you're lucky if your kids get married. Having grandkids? Come on. Right? It's something else. So here, at least, I have grandkids. That person's never going to turn their back on them. Because they're own flesh and blood. Right? And someone said to me, these are your flesh and blood, technically. Technically, that's true. Spiritually, they have no relationship to me. Non-Jewish nieces and nephews, they're not Jewish. I'm out of flesh and blood. What relationship they have to me? Zero. Spiritual. Then someone will say, but it's not their fault. You're right. It's not their fault. It's your fault. And it's not your wife's fault.
Yep.
Non-Jews are commanded over here to convert. They want to, fine. They don't have to. It's your fault. Right? Now, if God, imagine a person's a pure soul. They understand what the reality is. What real absolute truth is. And they see this, and God says, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you what your potential is, what your potential was, what you could have done this for. I'm going to show you. So a lot of the commentaries say that's what one aspect of hell is. Embarrassment. Forget about being punished other ways. That just sitting there, standing there, I don't know, floating around, whatever the soul's doing.
Showing you missed the mark.
You are feeling the pain.
What could have been.
It's explained. Imagine every wrong thing a person did. There's a needle you get pricked with. Let's make it real graphic. It's like a needle like this big, and kind of sometimes like they do here in Israel. Right? I remember when I got one of my corona shots. As nurses talking, this, that's okay, whatever. Bam! Like jabbed it in. I was like, ow! It wasn't like, okay, it's gonna hurt. This, that. It was like, it's like taking a sledgehammer and go wham! I was like, you don't have to slam me. It's like, I can't feel my hand for like 3 days. My lips are drooling. No, I'm kidding. But, at the end of the day, you see what unreached potential is. Not only unreached potential, you see what could have been. Who's not going to be embarrassed by that? And then this person sees who their kids could have married. They could have seen real, Jewish grandkids going in the right way. How embarrassing is that going to be? And for ourselves, we're going to have to answer whatever we did. Right? That's one aspect of what hell is. Knowing what absolute truth is, seeing how far short we came, and being embarrassed. Forget about the punishment. Punishment going to come later. That's part of the atonement process. Of seeing what you could have done. Right? And what you did to compensate. In other words, kind of like good old Uncle Esau. Good old Uncle Esau grew up in the house of Isaac. He understood what spirituality was. And still he's willing to sell his portion of the world to come for a bowl of lentils. Right? If he understood what that was, how could he do it? Because his body killed him. His body destroyed him. He went after desire. Right? So the embarrassments of things that we did in this world for fun, for enjoyment, CFL, right? For enjoyment of what a person did. And we're not going to say these things aren't fun. Total distraction, right? As we mentioned many times, right? Even so, imagine the Olam Haba, much greater portion of the next world they could have had instead of wasting their time doing this. Or doing that, or doing the other thing. Because the reality is, when we sit back like a couch potato, and we absorb all the garbage, what does it do? Atrophies the brain, and makes us not want to keep Torah mitzvahs. So there was an incident last week. I'm going to bring it up. A drop. It's a really stupid thing, but I'm going to bring it up. I always say, I didn't do it this year, but usually Purim comes out around the same time as Academy Awards. Right? So you know where this is going to go. But, so anytime I speak on Purim, I take my glass. I just, I always say, I just like to thank the Academy. I like to thank the Academy. Whatever. So, obviously, whoever's there doesn't understand. My wife will explain. What that means. Etc. So, people will say now. The whole question: how many people really watch the Academy Awards? Probably numbers are way down from when they used to be. Whatever. It doesn't matter. People get values from what they see. And there are plenty of things wrong, when it comes to the media, when it comes to videos, when it comes to TV, movies, all these things. Many, many things. Way people speak, immorality, violence for the sake of violence, all kinds of things. Not, worst thing is presenting what they think and putting it in to a movie to have influence over others. There was just something came out, about Disney when they put in more LGBT type of stuff in their, in their programming. Not even gonna go there, right? But there are plenty of things that a person sees or potentially sees that are wrong. Give off wrong values, foul language, all kinds of things. So now you take what happened with Will Smith. Now, some people say it was staged, whatever. I'm not sitting there going to analyze every nook and cranny, conspiracy theories, whatever. And, first of all, someone should be making, joke. You see what Lashon Hara does. You speak badly against someone, it's only a joke, right? I mean, I never even saw the movie with G.I. Jane, right? With Demi Moore, with her head shaved, right? Now, I did understand the reference, right? I remember when it came out. But it doesn't matter. So now, whether he knew his wife had some sort of hair falling out disease, or not, it's a low blow. But, it's Hollywood. It's only a joke, right? So, now, in that Lashon Hara, everybody knows it. But what's he guilty of? What is this idiot guilty of? That's his job as a comedian. Make jokes. Make other people look bad. But what did he do? Again, these things are so easy to pick apart. Why we should stay away from all this stuff. Right? Well, what did he do? He embarrassed someone in public. Embarrassing someone in public, Rabbeinu Yonah said, you lose your portion of the world to come.
Wow.
Now, not everyone agrees. Most people don't agree. Because even if someone murdered someone, you don't lose your portion of the world to come. But here, it's similar to murder. Why? You turn white, then you turn red. Similar to an offshoot of murder. It's not murder itself. If murder itself, you don't lose your portion of the world to come. How does Rabbeinu Yonah say? That if you embarrass someone, which is similar to murder, you lose your portion. It's a very hard thing to say. But he's telling you the severity. Now, here, two wrongs don't make it right. So here, he embarrasses someone in public. Now, what's the guys over here? How can he say it's not really a problem? He's a comedian. This is what comedians do. They make fun of people. They make fun of situations. That's what they do. Now, if you hold this was on the up and up, this is a low blow. This is a below the belt. Right? Now, if you want to say he didn't know his wife had this disease, or whatever, I could cut him a drop of slack. A drop of slack over here. Right? If he didn't know. But even if he didn't know, and he's making a joke, what's he doing? He's embarrassing someone in public. He just, so yeah, he should be smacked upside the head. That's the punishment. Get lashes. More than lashes. Now, on the other hand, this guy, Will Smith, is going to defend his wife. So, it's not enough. Imagine in the middle of the Academy Awards, in front of millions of people, whoever's watching it. It never happened. I mean, not that I know of. Never happened in the history of man. On camera, someone walks up and smacks somebody in the face in the middle of something millions of people are seeing. Okay, you can tell me he didn't press charges. He wasn't reprimanded. You want to say the fix is in. It doesn't matter. Not even going to go there. Now, does Will Smith have a right to be upset? Oh, yeah. His wife got embarrassed in public. That's murder. Now, the right attitude, if we had a Sanhedrin today, you lock this guy up and you smack him upside the head. That's what the law is. If there be a Sanhedrin in Jerusalem, etc. And the temple existed. But he doesn't have a right to get up in the million. Forget in the millions of people. He doesn't get up. He hasn't a right to smack him. Not to mention all the 4-letter words he said after that. While he kept running his mouth. Right? This is one thing. This is one small thing. And people say, and some people will think, oh, come on. It's live TV. What's the big deal? What's the big deal? So you watch the movie. What's the big deal? What are the values you're getting here? Right? One value is it's okay to embarrass someone in public. Even if it's true. Even if it's true she has this disease of hair falling out. Okay. And everybody knows it. So what? That means you have a right to embarrass her in public? No. Does this guy have a right to get up and smack him? No. In a temple, mitzvah is a different issue. You don't have a right. Not allowed to. You're not allowed to. And then he goes ballistic, right? And he starts cursing left and right. Using every 4-letter word in the book. And that the coup de grace of it all was he himself got the Academy Award. Right? That he himself won an Academy Award. What's wrong with this picture? Everything. Everything is wrong with this picture.
Call it what it is.
So someone will say, why I've been speaking about. What do you know about it? Because I happen to be looking at a news site. Just like what's going on in Israel, and this thing came up because it was world news. It was world news, and I'm like, you got to be kidding. Somebody actually did this? Someone actually did this, live? Hard to imagine. But my point is that people look at it, and people look at TV, and they look at videos, someone there points out, same thing happened in German TV 5 days ago. Someone got hit in the face on live TV. Okay. There are things that happen. Even if it's not so common. But anything, talk radio, TV, it's all, what is it? It's all making people look bad. It's all lashon hara, and it's destroying people. That's what they do. That's what the news does. Right? They say, I shouldn't be watching the news? Nope. Shouldn't be listening to the news? Nope. Not allowed to hear lashon hara, even if it's true. Even if it's true, you got to black out of your mind what you heard. That you shouldn't have necessarily negative impression of someone else. Right? Even if it's true, doesn't mean I can repeat it whenever I want. Right? So you're going to say, so why are you repeating it over here? Because there's a purpose. Because there are people out there that'll say people can do whatever they want with the information. Do you think someone's now going to get up, and start smacking other people because of this? People imitate what they see. They imitate what they see. But not only that, it makes an impression. But my point is, some people will say, these things, isn't profanity bad? Bad language? They would admit it's bad. Would you use profanity in front of your kids? Probably not. Some people do. Right? Some people don't care. Kids are used to it. Whatever. They're older. All this makes an impression. And it makes an impression on the soul. And people think this is a norm. This is how people act. Let me call a spade a spade. This is how animals act. This is how people not in control act. I don't care what you want to say about Will Smith. Been in a lot of bad movies. Been in a lot of bad movies. Right? Maybe a few good ones here and there. Even one that wins an Academy Award. Did he or did he not just lose tremendous respect from a lot of people? Probably. If it wasn't staged. If it wasn't staged. Right? So his career, is it going to go down? I don't think it's going to go down that much. Is he going to get hired for other movies? Probably. Are they going to reprimand him? Not going to reprimand him. There was a case I remember, Joe Pesci. Right? Goodfellas. I think he won an award. He won an award, the Academy Award for Goodfellas. Right? In the 80s. Aging myself here. And they asked him. I think he asked him in an interview. Didn't happen at the Academy Awards. They asked him in an interview, in that movie, you curse like a fiend. And he like, yeah, it could be. And then and then he started cursing left and right. Right? These people are not to be emulated. Not at all, just because they can act or hit a ball, or any of these things. But what we hear out of their mouth is nivell pez, disgusting. What they say, disgusting how they act, etc. And you can tell me, he's got some of these people, very bright. They have over 100 IQ, this and that. So what? Their character traits are disgusting. Deplorable. Right? So, I understand. Person get upset. Wife gets insulted. For goodness sakes, what happened to control? Even if he didn't get up and punch him. What about his mouth? Yes, my wife got, I have to defend my wife. So I'm going to say every four-letter curse word. That's so respectable. That's so unbelievably respectable. What's the point? Point is all this stuff, we shouldn't hear, we shouldn't see. It's a waste of time. We're not gaining anything good from it, right? Majority of stuff is lashon hara. Majority. Whether it's in a newspaper, whether, it's on the radio, it's on screen, film, this, that, whatever it is. It's all that plus. So things like that affect us, affect the way I think, affect what I see. There's certain things a person could have seen 20 years ago, or more, and they still have the images in their head. You still have the image. You know why? Because the soul records.
Doesn't forget.
Soul doesn't forget. We may forget. Soul never forgets. So that was sort of a side point. Just we have to think of what we're doing in this world. Time goes by. The older we get, the faster it goes. Nobody knows what today's going to bring. We mentioned this before. As King Solomon says in Proverbs, a person's going to say, I'm going to learn later. When the reality is, how do you know you're going to have it later? How do you know that's going to happen? You don't know what today's going to bring. You for sure don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. So if that's the case, we're going to take every day like it's our last day. We don't know. Nobody knows what's going to be. A person's brought down is given a certain amount of words in this world. What do you mean a certain amount of words? This is the decree, how many words they're given. In their last word, once it's the last word, that's it. So there was a story. I heard a story many years ago that I think it was a fest. It actually happened on a festival. And family gets together, and the grandfather, in mid-sentence, keels over. Mid-sentence, didn't even finish the sentence. Massive heart attack. I think a massive heart attack, stroke, whatever it was. But they died mid-sentence. So you're going to say, okay, if I only have a certain amount of words to say, I'm going to be very careful what I say. I don't want to use them all up and die young. That could be. That could be at the same time. Everything's calculated. Every last thing is calculated. But I still have to do what I need to do. Right? Back to our point here. We have to put the effort in. Even if we're going to accomplish not that much. According to what we have to do. So if we have so much to accomplish, then why do we waste our time on so many things? And you're going to say, because we get distracted. Okay? We get distracted. It's not an answer. If we knew how precious life was, if we knew every second, I could speak in words of Torah. I could learn. However much time I have. As we said before, how could we be like Uncle Esau, giving up a precious portion of the world to come for a bowl of lentils? And what's the answer everyone's going to answer? The answer is, you're right, we got distracted. But you see, once a person got distracted, once a person tasted the taste, it's very hard to get that taste out of your mouth. It's very hard to say, I'm never going to do it. Tell a chain smoker that. I can quit whenever I want. Okay. It's going to be a little more difficult. You know why? Because you're addicted. It's nicotine. But these other things are also addictive. There are people, obviously take their phone in the bathroom. They might miss something. Or as I would say, they have a TV in the hallway in case they miss a commercial on the way to the bathroom. They can say, Rabbi, forget that. They have a TV in the bathroom. So here you don't even need that. All you need is a small screen. That's all you need. So you're going to say, okay, this is the biggest temptation in our generation today. True. It's true. And someone commented last week, they're like, you don't have a smartphone? I'm like, no. The only reason, even if I got one, is just to use for Waze. I need to get somewhere. Right? I'm on my computer enough. I don't need, to be tracked every second. Might miss this, might miss that, might miss the other thing. I don't need it. Now, some people say I need it for work, I need it for this. Yeah, but a lot of times time is wasted. So, now, in context of what we said before, if we're only accomplishing a little bit in Torah, if we're only learning, a small amount anyway, what we could be doing, how could we even justify wasting our brains on this other stuff? There is no justification. Because here we're only accomplishing very little. If we're accomplishing very little, this is putting a stumbling block in front of us. It's going to make it that much more difficult. But if a person's done it over and over and over again, it's part of your psyche. It makes it that much harder to fight. Now, you tell a chain smoker he's going to die. If you don't start stopping now, or at least cutting down, you will die. Now, that might be a good deterrent. Or a person may say, I'm so far gone anyway, I'm just going to continue. Some people, it'll be a wake-up call. I know someone, many, many years ago, smoked like a fiend, they stopped breathing. That was it. For them, that was a wake-up call. They stopped cold turkey. Now, cold turkey is withdrawal. I get it. So you know plenty about withdrawal working with these derelicts, right? So it's a hard thing. It's a hard thing to give up cold turkey. If a person doesn't wean themselves off, it just perpetuates. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less, but it perpetuates. We have no justification. If I were playing God, put on my George Burns glasses, my funny mustache, and say, after 120 years, the person comes up, and I would say, listen, we only maximize 10% of what we should be learning anyway. Let's say. You wasted so much time, you maximize 3%. What do you have to say for that? You're a pure soul, you're already dead. So give me another chance. Nope, too late. No other chance. Person gonna, if it was a human flesh and blood king, we'd be begging for mercy. But the pregame show, the highlights, the highlight reel, come on. Watching them win it, come on. It was so enjoyable, so, they say in Yiddish, so geschmack. It was so enjoyable. In the World Cup and this. Yeah. So you got all this. WrestleMania is this weekend. Right? All kinds of stuff. Right? You got to get the basketball playoffs coming up. NHL playoffs. Not a shortage of stuff. Not a shortage of stuff. So you got all these great things. All these great things which totally destroy the soul. That's what it does. Again, if I didn't grow up in it and have those issues, you're right. You say, how can you speak about it? But I always say, how much greater I would have been, or I could have been, or maybe I still could be. You don't waste your time with all this stuff. So we're trying to maximize as much Torah as we can, even though we're only accomplishing, quote unquote, very little. So the $1.5 million question, we have the bounty here, or we have the ante. And that is, if we're only accomplishing very little, how can I put stumbling blocks in front of my face? There's no justification. You say it's not so bad. I wasn't going to be learning anyway. I wasn't this. Think about this. Jerusalem Talmud says, God can look the other way on the big three: murder, idolatry, and immorality. That if a Jew or non-Jew put a gun to your head and say, bow down to this guy in the stick, right, a reference to JC or a short little fat guy. They won't call him short little fat guy, but Mr. Buddha himself will make fun of idolatry. They say, bow down to fats over here or die. What's the obligation? You have to die. For a Jew. Non-Jew doesn't have to give up their life in such a case. A Jew will, right? Based on technicality of a verse, we're not going to go there, but Jew has to give up their life anytime, any place. Now, that being the case, Jerusalem Talmud says like this: God's willing to overlook that. He's even willing to overlook that. But if a person had the opportunity to learn and they didn't learn, God does not overlook that. God is not going to give up on that. Now you're going to say, this is a little bit hard. That is a little bit hard to fathom. Right? And the reason is very simple. You tell me that other things, the big three, why is it, it's so crucial that a Jew has to give up their life rather than transgress? Anytime, any place. It's called sanctifying God's name. But at the same time, when it comes to learning Torah and a person doesn't learn when they could have learned, God does not overlook that. God is not going to look the other way. That's a pretty severe thing. It's worse than the big three. Because here a person's wasting time or killing time. When they kill time, they kill part of their soul also. They just say, listen, I just need to veg. I just need to watch this highlight. I need to this. I need to that. But our minds in our soul has to be filled with Torah mitzvahs. That's what it has to be. Right? That's the way it's got to be. Anything that takes away from Torah, in general terms, is bad. Is never good. And if a person wasted time, even better. Person wasted time, you don't get it back. You don't get it back. So if I don't get it back, what can I do? So there's a parable over here. Imagine, now what have we been talking about? We're going to get a little bit off topic, but the main thing is, don't think I'm so great if I learn a lot of Torah. Because that's what you created to do. So there's a parable. Imagine someone, Ruvain, owes Shimon money. And he pays it back. Let's say he paid back his debt. And the person's doing, is doing backflips, jumping jacks. He's doing the moonwalk. He's doing all these things because look how great I am. Shimon just paid back Ruvain. And Shimon's he's whistling Dixie. Right? He's doing backflips. Why does he think he's so great over here? He paid his debt, he's obligated to pay.
Yep. It's restorative. Yeah.
Shimon owed $100, $1,000 to Ruvain. And he pays him back. And he's doing the moonwalk. What are you doing the moonwalk for? You bonehead, you're obligated. You were obligated to pay back. Finished? So too over here. With all the mitzvahs we do.
Mm-hmm.
How can we think we're so great if that's what we're obligated to do? Now, if someone pays back a loan, they're very happy. They have the money, or maybe they borrowed from someone else to pay the loan back. They feel very relieved. They gave back. Shimon gives back Ruvain what he wants. What he's
off
obligated.
Their shoulders, sure.
Yeah, gets it off his shoulders. He feels good. Feels very good. Right? But why is he going to think he's so great over here? You owed him the money. Ruvain's going to say, I'm not going to say retard. You can't say retard in public, right? Right? So you can't say, you idiot. You idiot. You owed me the money. What are you doing backflips for? This is what you had to do. It's obvious. It's totally obvious over here. Right? If you look at the Mishna, this is exactly what the Mishna says. A person fulfilled an obligation. They just came through Shabbos. They ate a lot. They learned. They rested. They slept more than they normally do. All these great things that come out of Shabbos. It's unbelievable. Such a great time. Family, friends, prayer, all these things. And like you're walking on air. Now, I'm not saying it's not a good feeling to have. Right? But then you start patting yourself on the back. And you think you're better than other people. And you think it's so great. Why do you think it's so great? You're obligated to keep Shabbos as a Jew. Things we're obligated to do, God said, shut up and eat the matzah. That's what you got to do. That's your obligation.
Shut up and eat the matzah. Yeah.
Shut up and eat the matzah. That's it. That's what we're going to do in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
That's the obligation. So I'm going to say, wow, look how great I am, or that we are. We have this great Passover Seder, or 2 Seders, or whatever. All these things. And I am God's gift to the world, and everyone's going to think we're so great. The Torah tells me clear. On the 14th of Nisan, got to eat matzah. You gotta remember, God took us out of Egypt. It's what you're obligated to do, all these mitzvahs. So we're paying back a debt, so to speak. A spiritual debt that we have an obligation to strengthen our soul. That's what all the mitzvahs do. They strengthen the soul spiritually. They strengthen the body. Give us an extra oomph in our step. That's what it does. That's the power. And now to tell me, I feel like, God's gift to the world, look what I did. God's giving you an opportunity. He's giving you an opportunity to tune into His world. That's the opportunity. And that being the case, it's to your benefit. It's to your spiritual benefit. It's going to make you who you are. It's going to draw you closer. So we should be whistling Dixie. I don't know how to do that, but we should be whistling Dixie every day. Jews and non-Jews. Whatever mitzvahs we can keep, whatever we can do. You're going to say, but you're obligated to do it anyway. You're right. But you mentioned right at the very beginning, if a person's doing things by rote, you're not getting that much enjoyment. There's something missing in what you're doing. You don't have that extra oomph in your step. You don't.
Nope.
So I'm going to remind myself of this. Tomorrow I start cleaning my bookcases, right, for Passover. Right now, I'm only going to go through those books I brought to the table. I'm not going to clean every book, but whatever. I'm going to rearrange it, make it look neater, etc. And we get caught up sometimes in the nitty gritty of the mitzvahs that we do. We forget why we're doing it. And we forget what the bigger purpose is. You're going to say, how could it be? Cleaning for Passover, you don't know what Passover is? It's like any holiday. It's like anything we do, any mitzvah we do. You got to learn about it. You got to understand it to the best of your ability. Then you have to do it. Right? So by doing it, God says you're going to draw closer to me. That is going to make your soul stronger. Now, it doesn't mean you don't have an evil inclination. Right? But this is what we're obligated to do. But if I don't delve into it, and I don't look into it, and all that, then what happens? Then I'll get credit for doing it. It's just going to be at a much lower level. And you're going to understand a lot less. And if a person doesn't prepare, just like the Gemara and Avot 2b to 3a says, if you don't prepare for Shabbos, you don't eat on Shabbos. Meaning, if you don't prepare in this world, you don't have a portion of the world to come. You don't have a portion of the world to come. How can you expect a portion of the world to come if you don't prepare? It's like, calling the pot black over here, right? You want all the merit without doing anything. Doesn't work that way. So God is giving us the opportunity to draw close. Is drawing close easy? Got a lot of deterrents in this world. Final Four, right? Baseball, this. We got a lot of deterrents. A lot of things that distract us. So we have to take those distractions, kick them in the head. Say, you know what? This doesn't muster to one, further going to say, oh, look, 2, 3, 4 hours, right? Of watching March Madness, let's say, right? The last couple games, couple hours, let's say 2 hours a game, 2.5 hours, whatever it is, 5 hours. How many days during the week do you have my classes on Pirkei Avot on the Rogo Network? You can watch a whole week. And you're worried about and you have 5 hours. 5.5 days straight. All my groupies can overdose. They can overdose on Pirkei Avot, and you're worried about March Madness. So either no one's getting the message, or I haven't yelled and screamed enough, right? But the reality is we can tap into whatever we want. And there's plenty of good things to tap into. Plenty. The problem is when we tap into things that take us to the left or take us to the right, it takes us backwards. That's what it does. And when it takes us backwards, it makes it a lot more difficult to hear Torah or to want to hear Torah. The vast majority of Jews today out there do not keep kosher. The Gemara says a Jew that doesn't keep kosher, what does it do? It dulls the spirit. Dulls the spirit, my language means it makes them apathetic. Apathetic to want to keep Torah and mitzvahs. What does that mean? It's like starting, it'd be like starting your Humvee, right? Or your Mercedes with a 9-volt, right? You're going to take out the engine. You're going to take out the battery. I'm going to stick my 9-volt. You're not even going to get it to do anything, right? They're not going to go, not going to do nothing. Why? That's the problem. It's like trying to start a Jeep with a 9-volt. Not going to go. Someone who's apathetic, nobody home. A nuclear bomb with God on the top. Not exploding, showing absolute miracle. It's not going to matter. Because the person's not going to see it. Because the reality is, it affects the soul by a Jew. So if a person's apathetic, not going to help. Now, hopefully most people listening here are not apathetic. Right? They're apathetic. They certainly be listening to me. Anything Torah-like. But we have to make sure we don't let 1 ounce of nothing get into us that's going to distract us. Now, the evil inclination is going to work wonders. Evil inclination is going to work very hard. Very, very hard. Your bracket's been destroyed already, but you still got another team you want to root for. They're still in it. Okay? Right? Life's worth living. Life's worth living over here. If not, your team gets knocked out, last second shot out of nowhere.
Rejection.
Person may just end it. Their team just got, someone threw up a prayer, 50-foot shot, the buzzer, swish, right? All the way through. No backboard. They go to the final game, you guys go home. Right? Now, it could be a bad call. It could be, all right, we're not going to go that far with this. Right? Does that mean it's not, it's not enjoyable? No. Doesn't mean it's not enjoyable. Right? But we mentioned before, with all these things, I would like to say people are getting the right values and the right ideas. But if they're not, they're foreign values to Torah. If they're foreign values to Torah, they're going to affect me in a negative way. Even by news. Maybe one day I'll have a lot of fun. I'll take a news broadcast, right, and break it down, right? Take down, let's say, a 10-minute news broadcast, 15-minute news broadcast, right, and break down every other word that's said or every other line, why it's problematic. I don't think people are going to enjoy that. They're going to say, well, I already know that. It's pretty bad, but people still listen. These are foreign things. Foreign things do not belong in Torah. Because what do they do? What does it do? It's kind of like one of these termites. It's like a termite. What does a termite do? Just gnaws and gnaws into wood, right? Until eventually, it makes a hole and destroys. Yeah. It burrows in, right? So you take one of these things that is going to burrow into you. So it doesn't just burrow in; it stays there. And when it stays there, it can be dormant. But then a person's under stress, under different things, and it comes out. I just need to relax. I need this. I got to watch March Madness. I got to watch this clip. I got to, that's how I relax. But again, if we want to keep Torah mitzvahs, And there are negativities, many negativities that go against what God wants. It has an effect. And it doesn't just mean that it's going to come out straight away. It could be something dormant. We mentioned a number of times, this basketball player last year, live streaming a video, and he makes this anti-Semitic, comment or whatever. Disciplined him. He was on the injured reserve anyway. Wasn't going to be playing. Took away money for the rest of the season. All right, big deal. Right now, at the end of the day, something comes out. Why did it come out of his mouth? You're going to say slip of the tongue. We don't believe in slip of the tongue. He wasn't careful what he said. Okay? It's there. It's etched in the heart. In the heart. It's there. Might have been submerged. But it's there. 100% it's there. And don't think that's not what he thinks. He's upset. He might be upset it came out. Right? You can't back there and say, oh, I didn't mean to say that. Because in Torah, it's there. And what Whoopi Goldberg said about the Holocaust, you don't think that's what she thinks? That's what she thinks. And she'd say it again if she wasn't going to get any flack for it. That's what she believes. 100% that's what she believes. Oh, it's white on white. It's not racist. You know anything about the Holocaust, you buffoon? How do you not? It wasn't a systematic, destruction of one people. What are you, blind? Either you're blind, deaf, and stupid, or all three at the same time. How is that possible? Because you have shaded glasses on. You see what you want to see, you hear what you want to hear. But that's what she believes. Now, I do understand to a point where it comes from, and we're not going to give her the time of day, give her a pedestal over here. That's 100% what she believes in. As misguided as it is. But she definitely believes that. I mean, what she thinks? She wasn't going to get any flack for it? I mean, probably not the extent she did. Right? She didn't care. Okay, they put so much pressure on her. She had, she had to backtrack. Right? They suspended her for, a couple of weeks or whatever. Okay. But isn't that what she really believes? If you got her, you didn't have a phone, you have any way to tape her, and you asked her, is this really what you believe? Of course she's going to say it's what I believe. Nothing to talk about. Nothing to talk about. So, it wasn't a slip of the tongue. There is no such thing as slip of the tongue. So anything we see, anything we hear, it has an effect. So it's there. So a person can say, what? I can't listen to anything? I can't read anything? How am I going to know what's going on in the world? And a friend of mine would say, if there's a war, I'll find out about it. How much information do I need? How much information do I need to know? I think people go crazy. They take it to a very far extreme. No, I have to know. To what extent? And this one spins it that way. Someone else spins it a different way. How much do I have to know? Gonna make me a better person? This is a question we have to ask. Is this good for my soul? Is it going to draw me closer to God or not? Now, some people would say it doesn't matter. I want to know this information. I want to see what's going on. I want to check the news a couple times a day to see what's going on. And that's it. I'm not going to delve into it. I just want to see. So people will make the mistake and say that this knowing what's going on in the world is important. So I would say how important. More important than learning Torah? No. More important than keeping mitzvahs? No. So what's the benefit? Well, you have to know what's going on in the world. Now, most people, either they don't read a newspaper or whatever, they know what's going on. They hear people talk. So how much more do I have to delve into it? How much further do I have to go? People think information, it's good to get information. It's important to have information. Maybe, I should be as open-minded until my brains fall on the floor. Maybe. But we have to ask the question. The question is it making me better or not? And a lot of these things, I can promise you, don't make you a better person. And after the fact, person finds out this information. Does it really draw them closer to God or not? Right now, certain things to say it's a terrorist attack and, we got to pray and this and that. True. Do I have to know all the details? I have to read all the articles? Who says I have to do that? Who says I'm obligated to do that? People are mistaken. They're misguided. They may have the right attitude. Let's say better. They may think they have the right attitude. But the reality is, it doesn't make them closer to God. That's not what it does. It just gives them information. Right? Now, what does the information do? Now, you want to tell me this information is going to draw them to tshuva? It's going to bring, it's going to bring them to repentance. There's a benefit. But if there's no benefit, right, what's the benefit? And there will be people that will say it's beneficial in and of itself. Because there's a Talmudic dictum which doesn't exist. But there's a Talmudic dictum that says, I have to be well informed. I don't know. I don't know that makes someone more spiritual. I don't know that draws them closer to God, knowing what's going on in, Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. Or knowing how many stupid things Biden's going to say. I don't know how that's going to make someone a better person. Might scare the wits out of them. In other ways, right? We have to realize God's the one in charge. He gave us the ability to draw close. And if we're accomplishing not enough, again, this is really what the question is. How do we get onto this? Because we're only accomplishing very little in Torah, in general. And if that's the case, how can I even accomplish it even less? How can I put myself in a situation it's going to take me to other places where I don't need to go, where it's wrong to go, where it's going to waste my time? It's going to put foreign things in my mind. That should never be, right? And a person's like, well, I'm just getting information, right? But every time, a person hears something, then they repeat it, and it's Lashon Hara, right? Isn't more than 30 prohibitions in one shot? Even if everybody knows it, and there's no benefit to tell it to anyone else. The list goes on. I mean, I'm not going to, spend the next 20 minutes scaring the wits out of people what we do on a daily basis and, what we really have to repent for. Right? There's a lot of things. But, I'll put it like this. Chaim Brisker, when he woke up in the morning, he had certain things he wanted to accomplish. How much he wanted to learn, different things. And before he went to sleep, he took an accounting. Did I accomplish what I set out to do? Didn't I accomplish what I set out to do? But first, before a person goes to sleep, they have to take they should take a self-accounting of what they did, how they interacted with others, where their thoughts were, maybe how they prayed. A lot of things. A lot of things to take into account. A person should have nightmares. Every single night they should have nightmares.
Wow.
Why? Because if a person really, really took stock of where they're holding and what they did and what they should have done, right? The reality is they won't get up. They won't get up in the morning. How in the world will they get up? They'd feel totally useless, totally inadequate, wasting their potential. And they're going to say, how can I do this tomorrow? How can I do the next thing? Now, a person can take strength and say, okay, I have to work on these things. And you have to work hard, to do that. We have to accomplish. We have to have goals. But it's very easy And I'm not gonna do it. Other people, much better at me than doing this. I'm not gonna give a laundry list of all the things we do bad, on a daily basis. And based on that, why you should never get out of bed and why you're gonna still do it and ruin yourself and ruin your soul and never reach any potential. Be very easy. Pick apart what people do, myself included, and not take it seriously. But if we would take it seriously, and we understand what the stakes are, I mean, isn't it true? On Rosh Hashanah, in Yom Kippur, the main prayer is what we call Unasan Soikev, talks about who by fire, who by water, who dies, in the water, who dies in famine, who becomes rich, who becomes poor. It's about life and death. Life, in general, it's about life and death. So how can we take anything for granted? So you're going to tell me, come on. Things are heating up in the world. True? God forbid, bunch of terror attacks, last week before. See where things lead. We live in a very topsy-turvy world. We don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. We have no idea. Gas prices through the roof. Still going through the roof. All kinds of other things. What's the anchor? What's the focus? Focus is on Torah. Focus is on my mitzvahs. What I have to do. My family has to do. Coming out of Egypt. Everyone has their own coming out of Egypt. And what we go through. And what we struggle with. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. But we don't see the bigger picture. We don't live the bigger picture. It's like people, make a living, they eke it out day in, day out. Every day is just, okay, I survived today, tomorrow's another day. How am I going to survive tomorrow? I got, not like they have, money in the bank to rely on this, that. They live with God. That's what they do. He's the one who takes care of everything. But the thing is, we get so caught up, in things that essentially don't matter. What does it do? It takes us away from what our purpose is. That's what it does. It weakens the results. Because now, we had the very cold spell in the month of March here in Israel, which probably they claim was the coldest March in 100 years.
Wow.
But all of a sudden now we're going to the opposite extreme. Right? It got warmer each day last week.
Year. It just went right into heat wave.
So now we're in this unbelievable, going to be in this unbelievable heat wave, coming up this week. It's going from one extreme to another. I'm going to see if it levels off, but, now, it was extremely cold, rainy, unbelievable. And all of a sudden, boom, changed the other way. Totally changed the other way. So now, everyone's going to be outside. Everyone's going to be busy, hopefully people are busy cleaning for Passover, different things. Each day, each time has its own evil inclination. So we have to remember, anyone who's cleaning for Passover, we have to remember why we're doing it. And what the purpose is and what the bigger picture is. And the bigger picture is, what am I doing with my life? And how am I living? Right? And how does this affect me? Everything affects us. The question is how much. And even if it doesn't affect you now, it'll affect you later. Something eventually, as we said before, like this idea of a termite, it burrows. And once it burrows in, it's in. It's got this super giant, unbelievable lock on the soul, which attaches it, imprints the soul. So that thing is there. Doesn't disappear. It's not like I can take a magic pill and get rid of it. It's there. Doesn't mean it's going to manifest itself today, tomorrow, and the next day. But see, the evil inclination got a lot of patience. Tremendous amount of patience. So, person gets worn down, has difficulties, different things. Person under a lot of stress, then the termite gets to work. And the evil inclination gets to work. And then all of a sudden, something comes out under a person under a tremendous amount of pressure, different things. You're going to say, why did this come out now? And the reason is because we're sitting there the whole time. Mr. T, Mr. T, right? Mr. T was sitting there. He was just buying his time. Totally buying his time. And the evil inclination got a lot of patience. You beat him today, he's got tomorrow. You beat him the next day, he's got the next day. He uses all kinds of things. And things start to build up, pressure, this, that. Termite starts Energizer Bunny. He just starts going all over the place. And then all of a sudden, something happens. And then it all comes out. And then it comes out. And then he said, I can't believe I just did this. I just did that. Just did the other thing. Said that whatever it was. So how can it be? You know how it could be? Because it was already there. It was already part of you. And and this Mr. T, we're just biding his time. Totally biding his time over here. Because every little thing has an effect. Might not have a major effect today. Might not be tomorrow. Might not be the next day. Might be the day after. Might be the week after. Might be a month after. Might be 2 years down the line. It can happen at any time. Anytime. Right? Now, why would most people, as we're ending here, why would most people say, I'm not going to worry about it? Or people make the mistake and they'll say it's not going to affect me. Won't have a negative effect. So the famous story with the Balatanya, which we mentioned many times. Balatanya had a student going to university. And the Balatanya told him, better be careful. It's a lot of heresy in university. You got to be careful. So the student said, I'm not really so worried. Because, I learned in your base measures, in your study hall, I was close to you for many years. I didn't get affected positively. I didn't become so righteous. So if I go there, I'm not going to be affected negatively. The Balatanya said you're making a big mistake. You're making a big mistake. Impurity, when a person becomes impure, a person can become impure by touch. That's it. All you have to do is touch it. Nothing else. You want purity? You want pureness of soul? That you got to work for. That you got to fight for. Impurities stick to you like glue, like nothing. Purity you got to fight for. So, if we have this struggle day in and day out, we do not want to give the evil inclination any ammunition. None. People think, come on, fanaticism, it's this, it's that. How else are you going to fight it? How else are you going to guard yourself against it except to purge yourself of this garbage and get rid of it? That's what you have to do. Person, God forbid, has cancer. What do they do with cancer? Usually they burn it out. That's what they have to do. They burn it out. Might be painful.
Yeah.
Cut it out, burn it out, whatever. Right? They'll do whatever it takes to get rid of it. Right? I know someone, just on that topic had something removed cancer was like 70%. 70%, they didn't get all of it for whatever reason. Then it made like a lot of their internal organs like move around a little bit. So they're always like in constant pain, different things. But in this case, you take it out. You do it. Why? Because it's going to be negative over here. Not only that, it could cost you your life. Now, no one is going to say, come on, I did this. You really think it's going to cost me my life spiritually? I watched the March Madness. Oh, okay. I gave in. I even watched the CFL. I gave in. Is it really going to affect me in bigger terms? And the answer is maybe it won't. Maybe it won't. Maybe you weren't going to learn anyway, whatever. You didn't have that obligation. So maybe it won't. But in the bigger scheme of things, every day, when a person's born, every day after that, we're getting one step closer to the grave. That's what we are. Some more, some less, doesn't matter. We're one step closer. Every day, doctors cannot explain how a person ages. As they age, they get older. There's no way to stop it. Maybe I'll be like, we can afford it. Be like Walt Disney, right? We'll be frozen and unfreeze them and see what happens. Okay. Most people are not going to do that, right? So what's going to happen?
Freezer burn.
Right. At some point, a person's going to die, right? Every day is a day closer. If every day is a day closer to death, what are we resting on our laurels? What are we wasting time? We don't have much time in this world.
Like a vapor.
King David says, 70 years, if you have strength, 80 years. Everything after that's a blessing. So if that's true, for a lot of people, most of their life is over. Not going to be here that much longer. Who knows? Nobody knows. But if you have an opportunity to strengthen your soul, then to waste time and do another thing, then we should be strengthening our soul. Because nobody knows. Nobody knows what's going to be. So a person can't take a step back and say, well, look what I've done up until this point. I learned so much. But that's what you're created to do. But the Chofetz Chaim says you didn't do a quarter what you should have done. So what are you jumping up and down for? Look what you could have done. Nobody wants to hear that. I guarantee in the next world, no one wants to hear that at all. No one wants to see that second movie. Nobody. Because that's going to embarrass the heck out of us. Mm-hmm. We should already be embarrassed as it is. Take stock of things that we've done that we shouldn't have done. We don't even think about the past. The far away past. The most recent past. What I could be, what I could have done this, that. Should be a wake-up call. This world is a powder keg. Ready to explode. Nobody knows what's going to be today, tomorrow, the next day. Things happening, things happening in Russia, things happening in Israel. Right? A lot of things going on in the world.
Hashem rules.
The month of Nisan is the month of redemption. So there can be an ultimate redemption. The question is, what am I doing? What am I doing day in and day out? How am I living? Where are my thoughts? And you know what the answer is? We're not thinking long term. We're thinking about what's going on right now. We're thinking about we're in survival mode. Right? That's what we're here. That's what we're doing. We're surviving. Nothing more, nothing less. That's important. We have to survive. But you can't forget the bigger picture. We can't rest on our laurels. Right. We can't think of God's gift to the world because, I watched a ton of videos. I know a lot of Torah. Can't think that. We can pat ourselves on the back and think, look what I've accomplished. Then you have to realize I haven't really accomplished what I want to accomplish. What I should accomplish. I was just thinking about this earlier. As I was coming back, after the evening service and thinking so many things I want to do. So many things I want to accomplish. And I'm like, just things I haven't done. Things I've been lazy about. And whatever, different reasons, got distracted, different things. Sometimes I always say it when there's, intercession, when I'm not, my normal schedule. All right, I should be doing this. I should be doing, other things. And right, this. We get distracted.
Yeah, and sometimes those opportunities don't come back around.
Also, right, we don't want to be like the Netziv and the Netziv of Naftali Tzvi from Berlin, the famous Netziv, who has a dream, being judged in the heavenly courts. And didn't want to go learn and this and that. And he sees these heavenly books go on the side of transgression. Because those are the books he was supposed to write and his potential wasn't going to get there. We don't need dreams like that. We don't want dreams like that. We want to live inspired knowing we can reach whatever potential we have. We have to work hard. We can't, this world is a world. I can't even say how many times. I say it all the time.
Yeah, don't waste overkill. It.
Oh, Rabbi's going on it again. We're living, we're getting distracted in this world. And I'm not just speaking to everyone else, I'm speaking to myself as well. Right? We get distracted. We cannot get distracted. We have to stay on course. We have to have fixed times to learn. We have to want to accomplish. We want to, we want to change. We want to do everything. We have to have a plan, right? And we have to realize there are things that are toxic. There are things that should have no purpose in the Jewish house or a Noahide house at all. Not at all, because we want to sanctify the physical. We want to uplift the soul to however much we can uplift it. Because anytime you put a stumbling block in front of it, it takes us, I should take that right to Albuquerque, right? As Bugs Bunny would say. I missed that right at Albuquerque.
The left. Yeah, left.
Or left, or whatever, left, right? Whatever it is. So I missed that left. So we don't want to hear that. Imagine, after 120 years, the person sees it, Coffman should have taken the left at Albuquerque. Wait a minute, what are you talking about? And then you see what you could have done. That's part of what the process of atonement is. But, we're still in this world. We're still kicking. We're still alive. We still can live inspired. That's what we need to do. And we can't, and we have to live in a way we're not going to get distracted. Obviously, not so easy. So next week, same time, Mishna 9, Chapter 2, Part 3.
Wow.
And you probably didn't even think we're going to get one. We're only going to one part over here, right? We're going to be Part 3 next week.
All right, Rabbi. So we're definitely on for next week. So there you got it, folks. Now, in the next half an hour, I'm going live with Beyond the Seven with the Rabbi Aaron David Poston, who we haven't been with in over a month. We finished the 48 Ways to Wisdom with him, which was Mishna Chapter 6, right? Beautiful course. Took us over a year to go through the work there, but he's going to be starting a new series on the wonderful work Tomer Devorah, which is a classic on the 13 attributes of mercy. So we've got the introduction coming up in the next half hour, so I got to sign out to log in for that. But we'll be back with more Pirkei Avos next week, same time. Have a wonderful week. Bye for now.